Alright, it's early in the morning. I'm going to do some test footage to see how well some of these ideas work. Alright. Imre, we knock. Hani, hear me. This is a little reversal of Can You Hear Me? And here's another one. This is going to be Leave Me Alone, the stereographic reversal. Nola, Yin, Feel, Leave Me Alone. This one's a little strange, but I'll show you this. Yim Resna. Yim Resna. Answer me. Answer me. Kind of spooky, but you get the point. Yeah.
Write the words, write them away. You dream of someone finding you dead. No, I can miss to you. Is it should have been a star in the sky, loving her home, not a rope on the neck. And all my reasons to lie hung around again for 4 days. No one knew that I was even dead. And I've gotta throw it all away for the ones I love the most end up like me. And I've gotta throw it all away. First the words change my life, find the times again.
Early in the morning, my TV came on, woke me up, static and shit. It's been about 3 days since I've been non-stop speaking again, doing the examples of the CVP language, speaking the stereographic reversals. I saved it for the end of the film, did all the other stuff first, because it's been years that I quit doing this and haven't done it. Night terrors, scratchings, all that shit. I mean, anybody who's been a part and has lived with EVPs knows what it's like. If you don't, I don't give a fuck. This is for people that do. I'm gonna get up this morning. The goal is to do the last of it, the actual lecture, and be done and put it out. Did some killer footage in the Villisca Axe murder house. But I think that's the last time in years that I've truly went in and tried to do some of the speaking. And maybe someday that'll resurface on the web, I don't know. But that Villisca Axe murder footage is really the only thing that exists where I went in and did some hardcore investigating.
All over these lines I'm ablaze. The fire in my skin crawls and keeps me up for days. I'm fighting sleep, itch till it bleeds and fall through me.
We're used to seeing this on computer screens representing different electromagnetic waves or frequencies or voices, whatever. But simply put, it's just moving electrons or whatever you want to pick for a flow of charges, because it's the flow of charges that create electromagnetic fields. And to make it even simpler, to start out, let's consider that this world is two-dimensional. It's not three-dimensional like our world, or even the advanced form of string theory. We start saying that our universe has 10 dimensions, like the supersymmetric version that Leonard Susskind helped develop. We're going to keep it simple for a second. This world has a width and a length, all right? Now in this world, there's paranormal investigators. They have their cameras, their recorders, their digital devices. As they're doing all these things, they see everything we see. The strange echoes, voices, all the paranormal stuff. If you grab their devices, you probably even get all the other stuff the paranormal investigators go through, like the arguing and bickering that you don't hear, like, oh, I started the group, you don't even have freaking right program, you know, all that stuff. Everything. But it would be strange to them. They wouldn't understand any more than we would why EVPs exist, why they happen, why what goes on. But let's do something really weird. Let's say that we communicate and step down these guys, and us being three-dimensional beings, knowing that there's higher space around, I want to draw something unique in here. Now, I'm going to draw an arrow to represent the way the flow of these are going. And I'm going to mark off sections of this wavelength. Alright, so we'll try to keep this a little better in tune. There's one wavelength. Here's the next. Here's the next. And what I'm trying to convey is that all these are equal, okay? It's flow of particles. Well, what if I were able to tell these guys that above them was another dimension? That there was a third dimension. So they're basically living in flat space. But I'm trying to tell them that, guess what, guys? Even though you can't see it, there's this other three-dimensional world. There's space above you. They would never know that. They'd never be able to understand it. And even stranger, if I told them that this dimension that was above them was actually, if I just attach here and drew a gigantic sphere. If I actually told them that nowhere else on their world did this little extra sphere exist, but at this one single point attached to the world was this higher dimensional space. They couldn't comprehend it. We can't think of 5 or 6 dimensional spheres. We have trouble doing that. So what's the point of this, and how does this play into the paranormal? Well, here we go. The big party. Let's let this wave pass by, okay? This wave comes by and it hits. And this wave's spreading out, like even though I've only drawn it simply, waves spread out in all directions. When you throw a stone in the water, it spreads out everywhere, but I'm just looking at one component of it, all right? So let's let this wave go by, and since we're used to thinking of waves and knowing that they carry information, let's just say that we're going to remember that this thing says, get out, leave. Two of the most simple things that come up in paranormal investigation all the time, okay? So this moves by and passes, but as it does, it hits this spot, and it reflects off and goes. So for a second, I'm going to erase this. Now we know that electromagnetic waves, they spread out and they keep going. They just get weaker and weaker and weaker as they spread. But what about the waves that hit this curved space? Well, when they hit here, part of that wave is going to come up into this wave. Come up into this new dimension, okay? It's still going to have equal wavelengths. And it's still going to contain the information. And part of it scatters and goes this way, all right? Well, this one runs off to infinity. It just goes and it's gone. This one's stuck here rotating around this sphere. So let's ask something. What happens to this information as it starts to come down the backside of the sphere? And I guess to keep it, just so we can see visually and not get confused, let me use a different color for the backside. So, I know it's kind of strange, but here's the point. Moving charges
along this area, no matter how you do them, are going to generate electromagnetic fields that any researcher standing here would read from a distance. They're flat. What happens to them? What happens to the electromagnetic fields produced when something's curving around us, okay, going around the front and back? Well, quite simply, so it's not a mess, so you can visually see it, what you do is called stereographic projection, all right? I'm going to take 2 arrows, 3 arrows, go up the top. What you do is you start at the pole and you draw a dotted line coming down to the arrow and extend it down. Then you draw a dotted line down to the arrow, down here at its base, and extend it down. What you're left with is a projection of that arrow here. You do it again for this one, building on it, and you're going to see something immediately. This wavelength is shorter than the next one. This one's longer. This one would extend out incredibly long. So the projection from the flow of electrons around the curved sphere in the higher dimension will give you electromagnetic fields back in your dimension that stretch in frequency, okay? Anytime you stretch in frequency, you change pitch, all right? Now, if we wrote the information in here that contained get out, this would be longer wavelengths. It would be get out. And this one would be so stretched in the frequency and its projection that we would lose the sound altogether. It'd go below normal frequency. All right? Now, we'll do dots. Well, I guess there's no easy way to draw this. You're just going to have to remember this is on the back side of the sphere. Okay? It's on the back coming around. Now, when you draw these projections from the pole down, first thing you'll notice right away is that your arrows get reversed. All right, let's do this a little cleaner. We got a sphere attached to a two-dimensional surface. Two-dimensional represents the lower dimensions, beings down there that wouldn't understand why they're hearing reverse EVPs. On the sphere, we know right away that the waves that come up the sphere and curve on the front side, just on this section, give you arrows that project down, forward, but stretch longer. So as these waves travel up the sphere, as they get closer and closer to the pole, the projections are longer and longer and longer. Now, as they get around the backside, they're curving and going over. So on the backside, you're going to have arrows. As it comes around the top, you're going to have an arrow that comes down, and down, and down. I drew that screwy. You have arrows that come down, and down, and down. So you're coming over, going around the back. These are all going to be projected, as you would guess, in the reverse direction. Meaning, if you started at the pole and drew your dot down, so the electromagnetic waves on the front side of the sphere, on this half on the front side will be forward. On the back half are going to be reversed. When they come back around to this side, then they're coming up again. Now these are going to be reverse. And when they go on the back side of the other half, when they make it to the other side, then they're going to be forward again. So, forward EVPs on the front of this half of the sphere, reverse on the back of this half of the sphere. Reverse on the forward of this side, forward EVPs on the back of that side. Strange concept. But this is a result of particles moving through higher dimensional space and projecting down from 3 dimensions to 2. That's why at the start of the film you saw me walking around, ooh, balls, woo. That's a good thing to look at because those spheres are sitting on the ground there. They warp and smear everything. You can see the same warping and smearing in EVPs, the change in pitch. Now, if you're really quick, you're going to see why a device like a Frank's box works.
Hey, lover, say my name in a field of crows. 3 shots firing and take a flag.
With this little Frank's box. And if you guys don't know what the Frank's box is, it's a device that it goes up in frequencies really fast and produces white noise. And the theory of why it works is because it finds a static in between the signals that aren't being used on radio stations. And it does it really quick. And it's in that white noise that a lot of responses happen. Well, I want to propose the idea that that's not completely true. The real reason the Frank's box works is there's these higher dimensions all around us projecting down waves. Those waves change in frequency and pitch as they come by this guy. As they travel past him, there's a lower wavelength, a longer wavelength, and a higher wavelength. All right? The speed of light is a constant. That means that if the wavelength changes, the wavelength gets shorter, then the frequency gets longer. Okay, frequency gets higher. So, as this wave passes this guy, what's happening is the wavelengths go from really long to shorter to shorter to shorter, which means the frequencies are going higher and higher and higher. So, if you had a word like get out, the G was in this wavelength, the E is a little longer, the T is a little longer, the O, U, T. As it passed him, as it goes quicker and quicker and quicker by, the frequencies are going up and up and up. If he happened to be tuned in to just this frequency, say like 100.2, as this passed him, all he would hear is up, just the O, the up. But since this would be like, say, 89.5, 100, 101, 103.4. As it rushes by him, the frequencies are getting higher and higher. If his Frank's box is keeping up with that rush, that smear of the wavelengths, then it can keep up and hear the entire information contained in it. It can hear the T, the U, the O, all that. You can hear the get out as it goes. Okay? So what's the point of this? We wanted to start out somewhere showing how waves would look to lower dimensional beings. And we started with beings lower than us on dimensions lower than us, 2-dimensionals, because we live in a length width height world. Before you think this example isn't real and that it doesn't have any place in reality or in physics, I wanted to start here because what we're going to do is show that this model does exist, that is buried within the fabric of string theory and all around us. And it's going to take a little bit of work to get there, but really quick, here's how it happens. Big Bang. The start of time. 3 dimensions go racing out to create our universe. They're still growing. They're expanding at the speed of light. We call them length, width, height. All right? Standard knowledge. But string theorists predict something else that's kind of crazy. They predict that all along this expanding 3 dimensions, our growing universe that's still growing out there, at each point on the x-axis, we'll call this x, call this y, we'll call this z. At each point on the x-axis, there are 2 extra dimensions that formed at the Big Bang also, but they didn't expand. They curled on themselves into a loop. There's also 2 at every point on the y, 2 every point on the z. So this makes life a really hairy, freaky mess because we can't see them. They're incredibly small, they're tiny, but we're going to talk about why they think they're there. But just to give you a direction of where we're going with this, if I told you to meet me, go 10 units this way, 5 units this way, and come out of the board 4 units, whatever. We'll put a point here. Told you to meet me at this point at 5 o'clock. Then you've got 4 components. You've got your length, your width, your height, and your time. But what you don't realize is exactly at this point are 2 dimensions for the x attached, 2 for the y, and 2 for the z. Meaning there's an additional 6-dimensional ball attached everywhere in space to every part of your body, every electron, every particle, every piece of space. In other words, we are floating on a 6-dimensional field. In the same way that a ship is on a 2-dimensional surface, it's subject to the forces of the ocean. It stays on the surface, it never falls down in a lower dimension. In the same way, we are subject to floating onto this 6-dimensional field. And the shape of this field, the curl of it, the size of these dimensions, all make up the forces of nature, all make up how we feel electricity, magnetism, and things like that. So what we're going to look at is how, in our dimensions, these projections, the little map, the diagram I showed you, forward, reverse, how that's buried within this. How do we visualize seeing it in 6 dimensions into projecting into our 4-dimensional space-time? Here's how you do it. You start out and you realize, and this is not going to be messy, so don't panic and go, oh my God. You start out by doing what's called a cross-section. You take a sphere and you slice through it, okay? Just like a magician would slide through a box, all right? Then you pull the sphere apart. Now when you pull the sphere apart, obviously you have 2 halves, but we want to keep that slice in the middle. That slice in the middle ends up just being a thin disc, okay? So over here we've got length, width, and height. Over here, by cross-sectioning and pulling that out, all we have left from that cross-section is that little slice, that slice of the sphere. Okay, that's 2 dimensions. So now take your disc, the 2-dimensional object, and let's cross-section through it. Let's just cut through it this way now. All right? Now when we cross-section through it, we're going to pull that disc apart. When you pull the disc apart, what do you have left there that you cut out? You have a line. So, I hope you can visualize this. You slice the sphere, you pull it apart, there's a disc left. You slice the disc, you pull it apart, there's a line left. You slice the line, you pull it apart. What's left there? A dot. So you're going from 3 dimensions to 2 to 1 to 0. You're going from a sphere to a disc to a line to a dot. All right? So the rule is every time you cross section, you step down in dimensions by 1. So let's go back to our problem. Here's our point in space. This is our normal universe that we live in, our 3-dimension. Pick anywhere, pick this wall, my body, wherever you want to pick it. Attached to it is this funky 6-dimensional surface of twisted space. It's called a Calabi-Yau surface. It's got certain properties. It's called toroidally compact. It's got 3 holes in it. All this nerd stuff, all right, for now. But anyways, this is 6 dimensions. And here is our 4 dimensions, Einstein space-time, okay? 3 dimensions length, 1 unit time. Well, what would happen if we cross-sectioned through both of these simultaneously at this point? Right where they attach to each other, right? Where we're floating on this surface, where every molecule of our body, where every piece of air is floating. What would happen if we cross-sectioned? Well, the 6 goes down to 5, the 4 goes down to 3. Cross-section again, because we still can't see a 5-dimensional sphere. Goes down to 4, goes down to 2. Cross-section this again, you get down to 3 and 1. Now we got something we can see. By using those rules of cross-sectioning, we've uncovered what's inside. A one-dimensional line with a three-dimensional object attached to it. And as you know as well as I do, three-dimensional object is a sphere. All right, so all around us are these higher dimensions, everywhere. We think of ourselves as being in four-dimensional space-time. Length, width, height, time. But we're floating on a sea of 6 dimensions. There's not just one of these balls at every point in space. They're infinite. You know, what I mean is there's not just one of them, but they're everywhere. They're all around us. They're perforating every part of our body. So when we speak, we shake the air. We shake the air. Charged particles move in the air. Oxygen, methane, radon, whatever's in the air vibrates at the frequencies of our voice. Those movements, the movements of moving air, causes electromagnetic fields that spread out in all dimensions, including these ones we can't see around us, where that information just rolls and vibrates, okay? But here's the catch. Why was I speaking in stereographic reversal? Well, you remember when I drew, if I write, get out, how does that go into the sphere? It's stereographically projected. So you'd have the G here, then the E, then the T, then the O, U, T. It's put onto the sphere in reverse. Because we're stuck in 3 dimensions and moving forward in space-time, ever-increasing entropy, everything we say gets projected in reverse. So if you wanted to say, leave me alone, on our dimensional plane and have them understand it, if you say leave me alone, they're going to hear the reversal, okay? They're going to hear nulla in feel. Nulla in feel. Nulla in feel. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. So what would you have to say here so they understood leave me alone? Well, you'd have to say nulla in feel. It would project onto the waves that go on there in reversal and would say leave me alone. So I want to put the idea out to you that when you go and you say, we just want to speak to you, we just want to talk, we just want to communicate, they're hearing the reversal, okay? When they hear the reversal, by chance, the word we becomes you. So they hear you, blah, 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 you, blah, 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 you, blah, blah, blah. Well, they respond. They respond like anyone. What would you do if you were in your house and you couldn't see and you heard, hey, you? You'd say, who is it? What is it? What was that? Well, when that reversal comes out, in their world into ours, it becomes get out, leave. Get out, leave. Get out, leave. Feel body, feel body, feel body. Okay? Now I think the evidence speaks, well, not the evidence here, I'm pointing at this, but anybody who's investigated knows that you go in, you ask these things, and all of a sudden you start to tingle up, you get goosebumps. Your meters start going crazy, you realize, you turn on your thing, and you get these recordings. Now, is it more likely that they're telling you to get out to leave, or is it more likely that what's physically happened is truly happening? They don't know who's there. They say, who is it, or what is it? Feel, they touch you, okay? Feel, 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 leave, leave, leave. How does that become, who are they? I think you can already leave. I don't think we need to leave. You can understand if you say it sounds like exactly what the reversal is. You know, I write the words, but forget it. The words, if you say leave, you can see that it says feel. So when you hear the phrase get out, leave, the reversal of it is who are they, feel. Who are they, feel. Who are they, feel. Hello. 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 Who are they, feel. Who are they, feel. Who are they, feel. Hello. 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 Okay, they're touching you, but you just hear the reversal.
Well, I feel the hate from behind your eyes as you look through me. Well, I've wasted all my time, stare at things I can't see. Well, everyone believed all the lies, everyone looked through me, and all the clones of plastic eyes shipped the blame and fate. Did you come in or watch me fall?
All right. One more thing. I was having trouble thinking, trying to get through that Legion part, but I left out something. Got ahead of myself just because this does, like I said earlier in the morning interview, man, it messes with your head. Thinking this way is strange. It just for some reason, if any of you have done it before, I don't know. It's so strange. It makes you feel groggy and sick and weird. But I didn't tell you one thing. I didn't share why a person in the room can hear it, but the person right next to him doesn't. All right, and I guess didn't show you two things. Wow, my head is really gone. I didn't show you why echoes exist either. Okay, you might have already guessed. Yeah. Here's the crazy sphere again. You're probably sick of seeing it, but there's waves on it. Okay, that are vibrating, going around this thing. They're looping, looping, looping. Now every now and then they burst and project in. Well, we already talked about the only way to envision that is by cross-sectioning, cutting an area of this. And that's exactly what's going on. This cross-section is zipping down through here. So if this guy happens to be standing here and a buddy's right next to him, that's the worst set of arms I've ever seen. The cross-section, the burst, the wave, will come through this guy, but completely miss him. If one happens to be standing here, another guy here, and the cross-section ends up being like this, one guy hears the reverse, one guy hears the forward. You get two different recordings, happens all the time. All right. That leaves the last thing, echoes. Echoes are pretty simple. You got to remember that when this burst comes in to our world, if it's strong enough, it can move the air. Now, the movement of the air, if the wave's strong enough, causes a shock wave that we hear sound. Okay, that's all sound is, moving air. So you have two things in play here. Here comes the burst. All right, strong wave. Here's the first batch of air that it comes in contact with. Here's our long-legged, freaking black and white investigator, okay? Standing here at this handheld device. There's a shock wave of air coming towards him, getting weaker and weaker, all right? But there's an electromagnetic burst coming first. That electromagnetic burst travels from this point, and let's say it's 10 meters, okay? Travels from there to here in the speed light almost a billionth of a second, okay? Really, really small amount of time. It instantly hits his recorder. The recorder has electrons in it. Those electrons feel a force called the Lorentz force, which is equal to QV cross B. All right? What does that mean? It means when this magnetic field hits the electrons, it makes them move. Now, how much force do they feel? Well, Q stands for the charge, the electron, which is -1. V stands for the velocity, there's 9 volts in there. And B is the strength of the magnetic field. Now this X here does not mean multiply, it's the cross product. Electrons curve in magnetic fields. That's why in particle accelerators you see all these big pictures of images curving one way and another. Well, that's the negative particles curving one way, the positive the other. But if it's a really big long curve, then it's a heavy particle. If it's a tight small one, it's not. And if they're straight, then they have no charge, okay? But the point is, the electromagnetic field comes, it moves the electrons in your handheld digital device. And if it said, my name's Tommy, then that electromagnetic wave that bursts goes from here to there, nearly the speed of light instantly. Behind it is a shock wave of sound, because this electromagnetic field also causes charged particles in air. Where air moves at the speed of sound, we're just going to call it, say, 1,000 meters per second. All right? Just to make it easy, which means when you divide that out, you have about 100-second of delay. So the first recording on your digital device comes from the force of the electromagnetic field moving the charged particles. The next one comes from the shock wave of air traveling at the speed of sound, which is about 100 milliseconds behind. Okay? So this gives you, if it says, I'm Tommy, then it'd go, I'm Tommy, I'm Tommy, I'm Tommy, I'm Tommy. You'd get the echo effect, okay? But two different things causing it. One moving at the speed of light, one moving at the speed of sound. Yeah, pretty simple. I wanted to cut and show you something wonderful. It's some footage of some kids, babies, younger kids, and some autistic people. At the start of this film, you saw images of Da Vinci who had different pattern hidden in his forward reverse work. I wanted to put that in there to show you that man's capable of doing this. It's capable of learning to speak this language. It's capable to draw it that way. The Bible, the first 5 books, Pentateuch, has a Bible code that know about that works off of matrices. So this is something people can do, and in this video you're going to see these kids as babies speak in reverse. And doctors know about this. In the development of the human brain, as you go from being a baby to an adult, somewhere around year and a half, you're always speaking in reverse, then the brain rewires. Well, it may be that autistic kids don't rewire. And it kind of breaks my heart because after doing this for 4 or 5 years, I hear things being said by autistic kids or babies, and I know what they're saying because it's the reversal. You get the hang of it and the feel of it. And I just wanted to show you this video to show that I'm not the first person to speak like this. Babies do it, and autistic kids do it. I'm just trying to pull it in and trying to bring the paranormal and physics world a little closer, okay? And also prevent people from going through what I did, the night terrors, and screwing yourself over, because you don't have any fucking clue what you're saying in reverse accidentally, and you don't know with the demonic entities what they're really telling you, because they will tell you things forward and reverse. And right after this clip, I'm going to give you the most terrifying example I know. Okay. All right, last thing, and if you don't listen to me on this, I don't know what to tell you. If you're anointed and you feel like you're supposed to carry this on, then do. As a kid, I was terrified by The Exorcist. What frightened me most is I had enough of an education, or been taught enough by my parents, I should say, to know that when this priest is, what's going on? This priest is trying to get the demon's name. He's ordering him in the name of Jesus, give him your name. Once he has a name, he can cast him out in the name of Jesus. Well, As a kid, it was terrifying because the demon wasn't answering. Why was he not obeying this man of God? It's terrifying to me. Pious person, I'm thinking to myself, wow, what chance do I have? Well, you can already guess that with stereographic reversals, you can go and you can look at demonic footage, and there's all kinds of things in there. But one day I had an epiphany, and what's really going on is the demon is listening and obeying the word of God. You see, the priest says, in the name of Jesus, give me your name. What do the demons usually identify themselves as? Legion. All right? Legion is always what comes up. It came up when Jesus ordered those demons into the pig and sent them over the cliff in the New Testament. Happens all the time. There's plenty of footage. Well, there's a loophole here. The demons know they are obeying the word of God. When he says, in the name of Jesus, tell me your name, it says Legion. But it's loophole. Why? Well, even though the Bible's been changed in different languages, and it doesn't matter if you're reading left to right, forwards, up, down, whatever, Jewish, whatever, the genitive, nominative, all the forms of language are different. When you write language and they get transferred, you lose information. But one thing is constants, names. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Jesus. Well, especially the angels' names. Raphael, Gabriel, Michael. Okay? Those names were originally written, the EL at the end of them, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, all had a hyphen and it meant of God. So you knew this was Raphael, Raphael of God, Gabe of God, Michael of God. Now, what people don't realize is the reversal of Legion Now, what most people don't realize is that the reversal of Legion I don't know why this scene is so hard for me to do. It's feel fucking weird. But anyways, the reversal of Legion, what most people don't realize is Noigel, Legion. Noige of God, the demon that possesses man. So, if that priest's faith is strong, it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to know the demon's name. By faith and faith alone, he can work him out there. Doesn't matter if the demon's tricking him. The demon's saying his real name in his higher dimensional world, knowing that when he gets down here, it's going to be sounded as Legion, and the priest won't be able to speak it back to him. Okay? Strange. It doesn't work with Jesus. Jesus, too much faith. He just stored him right in the pigs and sent him over a cliff. But if you think that you're going to go out there and play with this in an EVPs and find some answer, find some mystical thing, you're completely wrong. Completely wrong. What'll be waiting for you there is Noigel.